Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
One, two, a skittle-diddle-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
Ho, ho, ho. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and for my people had a great Saturday. As I record this, it is Saturday, so I still haven't done my traditional, well, it's been a dying tradition, but it's hopefully getting some new legs, but used to do the Chinese food thing. Very stereotypical for my people to go to Chinese food in a movie. Used to do that as a kid, and even into my teen years and into college, went to Kim Son with, which is not Chinese, by the way, I know. Save your emails. Just kidding, nobody emails me, but I used to go to Kim Son with a friend named Blake, coincidentally, and Larry Dockslager, who's been on here before, my former director. We used to go quite a bit, and this year, tonight, I haven't gone yet, we're doing Chinese food, because Blake Nolenberg, one of my dearest and closest friends in the entire world, had a baby not too long ago, which is crazy, but anyway, got immersed in the world of Cantonese many years ago, I say many, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, he got immersed in the world of Cantonese, learned. He's now, he doesn't say he's fluent. I think the definition of fluent is something like, 15,000 words or something like that. He's darn close, but he knows a lot of Cantonese, and you might be wondering, why Cantonese? Nobody in China even really speaks Cantonese. It's almost all Mandarin. And Mandarin is, I think, the second most popular language in the world. I'm not looking. I don't have a research team, but anyway, so he did not bother with Mandarin, but he ended up marrying a Mandarin woman, and so they, so he's like all China all the time, all Chinese all the time. No, it's like constantly he speaks it to me, and I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. And you probably don't care that I'm telling you all of this, but I get to say what I want on here. This week I've got Abe Ramirez on. I've actually wanted to get Abe on for a while. He's one of those people, again, that I've never really gotten to know in person. I've seen his Facebook profile pop up multiple times as somebody you might know, and now we've become Facebook official. Skinny. Anyway, so we became friends on Facebook, and I saw him at Thespians, and I think I gave him a sup, like a little head nod or something. I think I did. I feel like I did, and finally reached out to him to see if he wanted to be on, and he, without hesitation, was like, "Yes, Queen." Anyway, no, he didn't say that, but he was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I will." So I had Abe on. I loved getting to know him. One of those people. I can't say this about everybody, but I won't tell you who I won't say this about. But I could talk to Abe for a long time. We really could, and I could have had a longer conversation with him. But I like to keep these things short and sweet. I like my podcasts like I like my women. Short, sweet, to the point, and digital. Anyway, so it was really fun to have Abe on this week. I did put a few interviews in the can. I talked to a couple of legends, if you will, and a couple of people that just kind of want other people to get to know. I talked to somebody that Billy Dragoo told me you got to have on because he's super interesting, and I told him that. And speaking of Billy, I think everybody that is friends with Billy and or Annie on Facebook has been seeing that she just got a new heart, which is awesome, like beyond awesome. I think that's beyond awesome. I don't know what beyond awesome is, but it's not just awesome, it's beyond awesome, especially right around the holidays. And according to the social media stuff that Billy's posting, things, knock on wood, are going as planned or as expected. Maybe not planned, but I don't think anybody plans for this stuff, but it's going as expected for Annie. So if you pray, if you do the thoughts and prayers, if you just, are a kind person, which isn't always people that do thoughts and prayers. But anyway, if you're just somebody that hopes the best for everyone, I hope you're thinking about Annie and Billy especially too. But I hope you guys are there in your thoughts because man, it's such a right now. This is such a unique and pardon the pun, but heartwarming story so far. So I'm super excited to watch the progress and see how Annie pushes through and then returns to dominating the world. Kind of like Pinky and the I feel like Billy and Annie aren't evil like Pinky and the Brain, but I feel like they could be Pinky and the Brain, the nice Pinky and the Brain. But whatever, I digress. I hope you're getting your Sonic drinks, Billy. I hope that's keeping your fuel or keeping you fueled. Man, I'm not Englishing good right now. I hope everybody's having a safe and happy holidays. It is a dangerous time out there right now. I've started to mask up again. I hope other people are being smart about it and just making good decisions and everyone's staying healthy. I've got a couple of friends that ended up getting COVID. I don't know if it's the Omicron one. I don't know how you tell necessarily without like getting more specific, but I really don't know how that works, how you got a certain version of the virus. But I do have some people on the mend, and I've been home all week. My family left me right as the break started. My kids and wife left me. No, they didn't like leave me, but they did go up to Dallas to see my mother-in-law, and they've been there all week, and I'm bored AF. I did watch a couple of things, but I watched Don't Look Up, which I highly recommend. Great movie. Now, that said, it is a political satire. So if you're somebody that like is a super hardcore right conservative and don't have a sense of humor, don't watch it. B, if you are super left, liberal, Democrat, you also should have a sense of humor about it because they do kind of poke fun at that as well. So luckily, I'm a moderate. I see the best of both sides because most Jews are moderates. I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, it is a great movie. Awesome cast. I really enjoyed it. Haven't seen Spider-Man yet. Waiting for Ava to come home because I was going to take her to see it. It'll be the first movie I see in a movie theater in years. Not just because of COVID, but I'm just not a go out and see a movie kind of guy. I never really have been. So I am looking forward to taking her to see that because she's become a big Marvel and especially Spider-Man fan. So hope everybody had a happy Saturday. A Merry Christmas. Hope everybody got what they wanted. Socks, underwear, Power Wheels, which is what I always wanted. My parents never got it for me. Screw those. So mad right now. And I hope everybody is staying healthy and happy and enjoy this week's interview with a really awesome, beyond awesome, Abe Ramirez.
I was always a performer. I guess my family would tell you. There's always like that dark or that black sheep in the family. That was me. And wasn't until I think middle school when we finally got to Texas because I'm military and a pastor's kid.
Okay.
That's a lot to handle. So I was the only one in my whole family for 6 generations now was not born in Texas. So I was born in Hawaii, and then from Hawaii we moved to California. From California we moved to Edinburgh, and for me it was such a jarring experience because the grass was no longer green. So I was very confused. But it wasn't until maybe now that we're in Texas, middle school, San Antonio, Texas, at Longfellow Middle School, that I participated in my first one-act play, middle school, the middle school versions that they're all around Texas. And it didn't dawn on me that it was a competition until the actual like competition day. And we were doing Aesop's clinic, and I played Aesop, and it was a cute show. And it wasn't until like this judge was telling me, like giving me notes and critiques, and I was like, what is happening? Like, why are you telling me that I need to soften my voice some and not sound so angry? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then from there, it kind of all clicked and all kind of went from that point on forward. I attended Thomas Jefferson High School in San Antonio, Texas, which in the day was a fine arts magnet academy that was put together by the infamous Robert Ream, who unfortunately is no longer with us anymore. But he basically auditioned me, and I got into the program. Then he had a terrible fall, which is why I'm like a stickler for safety in the theater. And then Joseph Brown came in and kind of took over the program. And that's who my mentor was during that time. And I got in for acting. So all the fine arts, you audition, you went in, and you were a major, if you will. And so mine was an acting major. And so I took all the acting courses. I did one act again, but again, I didn't realize it was one act until it happened. But I did a fall show, our musical. Then it got real. Like I was like, oh, this is something I really like to do. And then the one act play happened, and I remember Mr. Brown just said, "Hey, I need you for this role." It was a kid role for JB, and I was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll play this role." I had like 4 lines at most, and then of course, spoiler, I die off in the end. And don't go back on, but I was able to watch all the upperclassmen and see like, man, they are really good. And I told my kids, I'm like, I was so naive to what one act play was. It wasn't until they told us we didn't win, and I was like, wait, what do you mean we didn't win? This was a competition again? There was a competition for theater? And then I was so naive, and then it clicked again, and then it became real in that moment. So that was my freshman year. And then of course, as a military kid and a pastor's kid, I moved around. So I moved from there to Channelview, Texas for my sophomore year. Mrs. Dowdy, I believe. There's so many teachers. She just recently retired from Channelview, and I know she's gonna maybe listen to this and be upset at me, but I wasn't in the theater program that year. Actually, I was a choir student that year. And Mr. O'Riordan and I took private voice lessons and kind of refined my voice during that year. And then got the musical, was the understudy for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And then our Joseph got sent to alternative school the next day after the cast list went up. And so I became Joseph. And then that's kind of where she saw me, took me under and said, "Hey, I need some," again, I never get my roles. People are just like, "Hey, I need you." And she's like, "Hey, can you be when I play The Witch Is Not for Burning?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Again, don't know what it is. Again, the hype of the competition wasn't real for me. Still, this is my second official One Act Play. We didn't win. I got an award. I was like, okay, this is nice. Now I'm starting to get it. Then when I joined Thespians, I was the vice president, or going to be the vice president. And then all of a sudden, boom, we move again. Go back to San Antonio. I asked my mentor, Joseph Brown, I was like, "Hey, I know this is weird, but I'm back in San Antonio. I don't know where to go for school. Can I please go back as a major and still be in the program?" And he's like, "Of course, come back. We're waiting for you." That was one of my best years of my high school experience. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to play the game. I then asked to double major in acting and dance. And so I was part of the dance program as well, and became part of the Thomas Jefferson Lassos. So I don't know if people in San Antonio will know what they are, but if you ever see a group of girls and maybe 1 or 2 boys down a parade and they have these lassos happening, that's the Thomas Jefferson Lassos, and we dance with the lassos and perform with them. That year, oh my God, what did we do that year for one act? God knows, I can't remember.
I'm sure Billy Dragoo knows.
I could call him up right now. I'm like, remember what I did?
Yeah, I'm sure he knows.
Yeah, he would. I cannot remember what we did that year. Then again, had the time of my life, did a lot of great stuff, and then moved on to a different school. Had to move again due to being a pastor's kid, and we moved to my senior year. We moved to far San Juan Alamo North with the Gilbert Zepeda. Amazing man, amazing program he had, and I felt like I didn't belong there because all of his people were amazing. And then come to find out, they were nervous I was coming because I was a magnet student, and they were like, "Who is this guy?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I know just as much as y'all do, if not, you know more." And that year we did the Russian play, Government Inspector. We
Yeah,
did the Government
yeah.
Inspector that year, and I played the butler guy, but I played him like so like deranged and nasty, and I had so much fun with that. And then of course time came to graduating, and I had two older siblings, and my brother dragged his feet graduating. Technically, still isn't graduated from college yet. My sister was one of those 10-year college attending people, so I wanted to make sure that I just need to get done and like find a place and get it done. And so I was really adamant about finding the good place that I wanted to be at, but also within the refines of like how much it costs and all that. So I did my homework my senior year, and I had two choices ultimately: to stay in Texas because everything outside of Texas, even though I got accepted to it, was too expensive. So because I was a pastor's kid, I had like two of the Methodist schools in Texas that I could go to, either McMurray University in Abilene, or Southwestern University and Georgetown. And Abilene was great. However, the town, it's lovely. And then Georgetown, I missed the deadline for the audition. But as we were driving back from Abilene, I get a call and like, "Hey, an opening just came up. Would you like it?" And I called immediately back, and I was like, "Yes, please, please, please." And so, and then they said, "Oh yeah, you need another monologue." I only had like a monologue and a song, and they're like, you need another monologue." Like, two monologues, and of course, like, I'm dumb. I didn't know what monologues were good, what monologues were not good. I don't know why like thinking back, I'm like, why didn't my teachers tell me? Like, or why didn't I ask all those questions? And so I quickly got one of those horrible like monologues for teenage books, and like quickly memorized it the hour up we got there, and then performed it. And then Rick Romer, the dean, the chair at the time of the theater department, was like, "How long have you had that monologue?" I was like, "An hour ago, actually." He's like, "Well, it shows." I was like, "Cool, thanks." After some banter after that, they gave me some scholarships that were wanted me right then and there, and so I said no McMurray, yes Southwestern, and then I began my whole college career there. Um, and I went in thinking in the back of my head that I wanted to be a theater educator. So I dabbled in some of the prereqs for both education. Um, but to me, I was like, I know what I'm doing when it comes to that stuff because I come from a family of educators. If I didn't know what I was doing, I could just call up my aunt. I was like, "Hey, help! Can I have some help with this?" Or my sister was finally like, that's where the path she was going on after the 10 years, the final 4 years. She was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing." So I was fairly confident in that, and after taking some of the education courses, I was like, I don't need this. I need to learn what I'm doing in my field because my field's very specific. And sometimes if I still in the back of my head, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be an educator, sometimes they don't have two people. You're the only person, and you have to do all of it. You have to do the tech side, and you have to do the acting side, and you have to be a good director, and just all of that. So I switched to just a regular BA to a BFA program in there at Southwestern, and my degree was specifically in acting with an emphasis in directing. So there's only two of us that did the directing strand at Southwestern when we graduated. Me and my friend Alexis Getty. Um, I appreciated that time because they gave me opportunities that I know I wouldn't have gotten from just doing performance. And I don't know if I was a good performer, but I do know that I was a good leader. How like I basically took hold of everything, and that's how I became a stage manager as well. There at Southwestern, and kind of learned like all the planning and the the backstage stuff that no one tells you about. And then I was like, okay, this is good for me to know, because of course, as a teacher, you have to do all of that, and as an educator. So it was very good. But at Southwestern is where Tal Lestraco camp happens. And I know you've heard of that, about that camp a lot in this. But as a junior, I SM'd for Scott Tipton for his production of Skin of Our Teeth, which was very interesting. And that's where the woolly mammoth came in that Cheryl was talking about. So I fondly remember that, that construction and that. She was like, "What do you need?" I was like, "I need a woolly mammoth," is what he said. "Here you go." And then I walked away just as a little student. And then, but man, that script was so bizarre. But then, like, the way he just adapted it for the kids to understand was great. It was great, and it really like opened my eyes. And then I got to see a production from Billy Dragoo, and then a production from Craig Hurdle, and I'm like, just, mine is blown what these high school productions could be. And so I was like, well, this is too good to like pass up. So the following year, I went to our SM and lighting instructor at the university, and I said, "Hey, look, you want me to be your production manager?" So I wanted that job, just so I could kind of cement my name with these people that are amazing, like the Natasha Tolsons and the Mark McHells. I'm like, I need to be with these people because they're going to teach me what I need to know. And so that year it was, it was a year. There's some heavy hitters during that year and big shows when I was SMing, and I was like, of course, it's when I'm doing it. I had only 3 emotional breakdowns, but it was great. It was great, and again, it just kind of cemented my work ethic, and that's what people know me as is this production manager and stage manager. And I got my first gig. I literally had to leave like a day within the 2 weeks of the camp, and I had my best friend who was my ASM. I was like, "You're fine. Just call me if anything happens." And I had to leave, go interviewed, and then came back, and I was able to say, "I'm a teacher now." And that was at Lavernia High School. I was the technical director there for a year. Then graduated. I was like, "I'm out of here. I got a job, y'all. Peace." Then I went to go teach, and they don't tell you how hard the first year is. So when I find a student teacher, I tell them like, it's okay to cry. And then they laugh at me, and I grab them like, "No, it's okay to cry. You will cry, even though you don't think you will, you're going to cry. And that's perfectly okay. And that's where wine and or chocolates come in handy." And that's what I always tell them, even to this day, because it was hard. It was hard. I drove an hour every morning to work, and an hour every day back. It was hard because that year they're like, "All right, you're teaching technical theater." I was like, "Okay, great. Where's the shop?" They're like, "Wow, that's funny. What do you mean?" I'm like, "There's no shop." They're like, "No, of course not. There's no shop." So I had to, and then where my classroom was in an actual classroom. And the theater space was like, I wouldn't say a block down, but it was a ways away from where my classroom was into the actual pack. And then in order to get into the pack, I had to make sure that I reserved a spot to get into the pack with the pack manager, who was the principal's father. And then they said you can go to the cafetorium, and that's the stage that's there, and work back there. And I was like, that's probably where I'm going to do most of my stuff, because I don't feel like going back and forth, even though it was still a walk. But it was hard because, especially as a new teacher, and I didn't graduate with an education certification. I graduated with a BFA in acting and theater, and with a degree in acting with an emphasis in directing. And I took some minor classes because at some point I was like, I'll be a minor, because the education professors like really talked me into it and really hyped me up. And I was like, oh, that's nice, but I don't want to waste my hours on that. And so I went and I got my alt cert with Texas alternative certification of Texas, which was a great program. 2 weeks worth, hard hitting stuff. Like they hit you with all the important stuff. Here's how you do a lesson plan. And it was taught by people who are actually teachers who went through the program. So they're like, here's the real shit. Like, let me tell you. And I appreciated that, because it kind of like, it grounded you, and you're like, okay, if they can get this and like talk about a time where he had to walk out of his classroom before he said something, it was like, I get this, cool. But because they also had to observe me as well as my actual observation, I was super like high stakes that first year. And then I didn't have a shop. And I was like, what do you want me to teach in technical theater? So I developed a curriculum that was all hypothetical, which I was pretty proud of, pretty proud about the hypothetical stuff. So, but I taught them everything from like set design, and we built flats out of construction paper using like all the proper vernacular. Then I taught them how to do mask work. I taught them how to sew, and that was like the best lesson that I did, because I had the next day all my football players like bringing in their pants, listening to the lesson as like they're sewing up their pants, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Mom's emailing me, thank you for making it learn how to sew a button. It helps so much. I was like, well, I'm glad that happened. And then of course taught them basics of lights, not that much because again I had to travel so much. And then I also taught helped teach his kind of like production class as well. And I did theater 2-3, and we did one act versions of shows, and that was fun. And that was, they only did like the one act and then a kind of like a talent variety show that they did, and I was like, no, we gotta do more shows to get you guys better. And then that was the end of that year, and that was fun. But I knew I was like, I need to be somewhere where I'm gonna learn, that's gonna challenge me. And so at that when I play, or not, sorry, not when I play, at the Taos camp that year, was I dorm dad that year? Yes. I thought my time at Taos camp was going to be over because I graduated. I was like, they don't need me anymore. But they called me to be the dorm dad, and I was dorm dad that year and have been forever on. But in that year, Gloria McLucky grabbed me and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm at Lavernia. She's like, do you like it? I was like, I guess. She's like, no, you're going to work with me. I was like, okay. And she took me to Corsicana with her to work there. And I learned so much from that woman. I can speak all the kind, beautiful words about her. And she took me as one of her families during that time. And I texted her after I listened to her episode on your podcast, because she was like, and then he left me. I was the one that left her. I like cackled, and I texted her. I was like, way to call me out, hon. And it's true. But that year was so great. She let me direct and do basically everything for the musical that year. We did the fall show, which was a Piece of My Heart, which I loved. I love that script. And she gave me a compliment and was saying how like my lighting really helps the audience see. And I was like, I didn't understand what she meant by that until like much later. I was like, oh, that's a real good compliment from Gloria McLucky. And then we did Playhouse Creatures that year for one act play. And that was such an amazing experience to work with her and see how her process was, and also how to have a good relationship between partners, and how like I would say something and she would be like, let me think about it, or she would never be that's dumb. Some things she would with rightful reason, because I was still a young director, and she's like, we can't do that. I was like, okay, I get it. Cool. But no, it was, I love that show. It was so beautiful. I think we just made it to area that year. But I will treasure working with her. And that year that I worked with her, forever. I would have stayed, but things at home, I needed to go back home and be with my family just to kind of help out with some stuff. And so I got a job at East Central working with Maggie Booz, who also I met at Taos Camp. So this is why I wanted to make sure I went to Taos Camp. And I taught there for 4 years, and that we built a great program. I love those kids with all my heart. And Maggie's amazing. And it was really a dual partnership. It was never like head director, assistant. It was just always dual. She made me feel so included on everything. And it was a great partnership. And we went to grad school the same time during that time while she was also pregnant. And so it was was a fun time. Had a fun time. So we have great memories. But those kids were amazing, and that's where I kind of started my musical theater program. I tried to build it from the ground up that year because that's what I've always wanted to do is build a musical theater program to teach kids and get kids better prepared for either the professional world of auditioning and performing or just to be better for colleges because I was not. And so I don't ever want that feeling to happen to my kids that happened to me in those initial auditions. So that's what I really wanted to do. And I built it up and we got a new facility and a new pack during that time. And I just felt something in me was like, it's time to I need to find something else to do or somewhere else to be. And that's where I interviewed and got in at Harlan High School with Brian Green. Was there for 2 years, and I was just the technical director. And that's where I challenged myself. It was a bigger auditorium, hydraulic orchestra pit that went up and down that nobody knew how to work. So I had to practice my French and call the Quebec offices and say, "I need help. Someone help me, please." And then so that challenged me and really helped me give me my confidence about being a tech director because there's a lot of stuff that I knew I could do, but then there was stuff that I was like, I got to figure out how to do this, make this work, especially to the bigger 6A size that it was. And I really loved it there. The kids were great, and they just kind of like they were hungry to learn how to build and learn how to do lights and learn how to sew, and it was great. And so I will always cherish my moments, with my kids there. And then I was messaged by one of my friends, Carter Ridge, also from Taos Camp, and she said, "Hey, look, I know you wanted to have your own." Be the head of your own department. We have a opening at this Coma ISD if you'd like it. What do you say? And this is 3 weeks before school starts, mind you, in the new year. And I said, girl, you crazy. I don't know if I can do that. She's like, just think about it. And so push comes to shove. I send my stuff, I interview, and I get hired 2 weeks before school started, and then I go. And it's been a whirlwind. I was given a musical with two cast for Rock of Ages, which was very difficult. And if you don't know the score for Rock of Ages, it's a hard score for anyone, and especially students. Like they don't modulate the keys or anything. They give you like a note difference, and I'm like, okay, cool. You want my boys to sing that? Okay. But they did it, and I had two cast, and I'm trying to learn a different district and how the policies and all the new grading works was challenging. And finally, things have slowed down. We just auditioned for our one act play, and it's a full circle moment. And I'm doing JB this year, and we're really excited for it. I'm still cutting that script because it's an hour right now, and so I got some more cutting to do. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
cool. Rock of Ages. Yeah, I just saw the Tuts version of that, the Houston version. So it's intense. Yeah, but
It is.
at least the music's fun. All right, so I took quite a few notes, and I don't know if this is in any particular order in which I'm going to ask you, but I have to ask about the lassos. While you were talking, I quickly looked at their website and saw some of the stuff they do. Once a lasso, always a lasso. That was right at the top of the website. But can you still I mean, is it called? It's called lassoing, right? Or the art of lassoing, or I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
just it's a trick. Yeah,
So
a trick rope. It's a trick
yeah,
rope. So
okay,
I'm not gonna say that it's like a specific skill, which all of us who have done it, like if you give us a lasso, you will always remember how to do it
right.
because it takes a lot of time and patience to learn how to do that, especially to dance with it. But yeah, no, I still have my rope. It's tucked up away somewhere in my boxes, and I'm gonna bring it out for JB so to be one of the tricks for one of my
Yeah,
performers to use. And I was going to we were gonna do Oklahoma before we switched it to Mary Poppins, and so I had my lasso ready to go to give one of my students to teach them. I
yeah,
was gonna teach them all how to do it for the forgot the character's name, not the main one, but the second guy
yeah.
that
I know who you're
gives.
talking about. Yeah, But yeah,
But
so
we were gonna, yeah, I was gonna teach them how to do the rope, but yeah, nope,
so
still can do it.
so you can't just pick up any rope and just
No, it
yeah,
has to
it's
have
got
a
to be that.
specific weight to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
The real lasso ropes are like actually like heavy and
yeah, yeah.
like those. Nah, it's a cotton rope and it's called a trick rope for a
Okay,
reason. There's like some of them have the I forgot what it is, but it's like a metal spool
sort of a
inside of it
grommet
that
kind of thing, or yeah.
kind of helps it. The rope go through it.
Okay,
Uh, I was captain. I was going to be captain my senior year, which hurt because that's why I moved and it hurt. So I didn't fulfill that. But I remember the captain, if you're a lasso rope captain, you had to, for pep rallies, had to stand on a box and get the giant lasso, which was 100-foot lasso. And you had to lasso that thing all around the gym floor, and everyone would go crazy for it. And because I was the man that got it, the lasso alumni were like, well, let's make it a little bit bigger.
yeah.
I was like, you crazy.
I'm
You
just
crazy.
as a lighting person, I'm imagining it being like an LED rope, and when you're twirling the thing, it's just that could be kind of fun. There you go. There's your idea.
when
Uh,
we did the flambeau parade, which was a night parade, they tied the what do you call it? Those glow sticks to
yeah,
it, and it weighed it down, so all of our arms were just
yeah.
sore and wrists were sore at the end of that 5 mile
Wow.
parade. They
That's
did it
yeah.
for the fans.
What a skill. That's kind of cool. So I think the teacher you were thinking of at Channelview is Dowler, Catherine Dowler.
Yes,
Yes, Miss
Catherine
Dowler.
Dow.
Okay.
Yes,
I again, I looked it up while you were talking. So it's not again not my Billy Dragoo knowledge. Just the use. Yeah, it's my Google knowledge. What does your sister teach?
she teaches social studies
Okay.
and a school teacher as well.
Do you
But she
ever
has her own.
do you ever call on her to be a dramaturg for you, or like to see if you can get some helpful hints
I mean,
from?
some things I'm like, is this true? And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Like, then I
Yeah,
just go
yeah,
off that. I'm like, when did this happen? Okay, cool, thanks.
yeah.
And I'm just leave
Just
it at that.
quick things. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that stuck out to me during kind of your background was so going to Jefferson, which is I guess sort of the HSPVA of San Antonio. So like I knew of Jefferson back when I was at HSPVA. What's that? What's that? What'd you say?
It's no longer
Yeah,
it's no longer a magnet school, but it was back in the heyday. Like
right,
it was when I was there, and like I think it stopped being a fine arts magnet. It's still a magnet school, but for architecture.
right.
But it stopped being a fine arts magnet, I think, in 2012.
Okay, yeah, but
But yes, you're right.
yeah, so the thing that stuck out to me was though because at HSPVA, and I've said it on this pod before, so you can skip 30 seconds, but PVA never competed in one act play because they were under the idea that if we win, of course we should. If we don't, why aren't we? That kind of thing. So, what was the reason that Jefferson, which is grabbing these top tier performing arts kids, what was their justification for competing? They just something to do kind of thing, or
Well, because it was the thing about it was a school within a school. So you had the main high school, which was Thomas Jefferson. Then you
right,
had the small magnet academy that was inside that had these pool of students that were just the fine arts kids. And so not only the fine arts kids were allowed to be
got it,
into the one act play, so he was able to kind of mix and mash all of you. So if you were chosen to be in the one act play, you were like on
got it,
cloud nine, but then you also knew, well, we're gonna do the spring show, so that's fine. Like,
right.
so it wasn't like all of his best kids were in there. He kind of picked and pulled some, because I knew that about that year there was only like maybe four of us
Got it.
that were actual magnets in the show that year. So just I think that's kind of what's his um thought process, that kind of was a playing field
There's
for
an
everyone.
open audition for the whole school. So okay, that explains it. So, do you fancy yourself as a technical director or acting director, or do you fancy yourself just as a theater artist?
Heavy words. Um,
Yeah,
I would say theater artist, only because I know I don't say technical director because I don't think I'm not a Mel Edwards, but I don't say acting director because I'm also like I'm not a not a Billy Dragoo that can coach students the way he does. So I feel like I'm just kind of putting all my hands in all the cookie jars in order to just do my job, which is to teach theater to my kids, no matter what
Yeah.
vein it is.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm of similar nature. I guess I lean more towards the technical side of things, but I think that well-rounded theater artist is probably the better educator. No offense to people that are in education that are not well-rounded, but it's just that you can give different perspective and kind of speak from different areas of the field, I guess, if you will. But again, it's no offense to Mel, who
You gotta take it.
maybe she's a diamond in the rough when it comes to the stage, and she's like the most talented dramatic actress, and we just don't know. She,
He's like texting right now. Like, how dare you?
right. So you also mentioned that uh, you you were kind of naive when it came to knowing that one act play was, or at the time that in middle school that it was a competition, and then you kind of again it had that sort of similar feeling in high school that first year. Do you? I'm assuming you kind of take that feeling and talk to your students about like, hey, let's make sure we all realize where we are, what we're doing, all that kind of stuff, or do you also let them kind of figure it out as you go along?
I'm pretty real with them. I tell them, hey, this is a competition. And especially right before the actual auditions happen, I'm like, if you're auditioning for this, the stakes are higher, just a little bit. It is not what defines our department, but it is what helps it get seen a little bit more. And so I do let them know that so they are not as naive as I was. And I tell them that story for that purpose so that they can see the more, because the more you know, the more uh, the more information you have, the better
Right.
quality I think will come out of that. So if you're a person that's like, competition, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is not the year for you. You watch what happens on the sidelines and then you're like better prepared for next year. So, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely put them, I, I lay the hammer
You
on
make
them.
sure
Like
they
this
know.
is, yep.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. And then I had a couple more things. One I'm saving for the end because I might have more follow up questions, but I have to mention as a board member for the Educator Conference for Texas Thespians, you talked about something that we're trying to implement, not intentionally, but you talked about that new teacher kind of experience and making sure that new teachers know it's okay to cry and that a bottle of wine or a case of wine is okay to keep in your apartment or your house. Chocolate's good depending on if you like that, but we have this new teacher track that we're trying to sort of implement at Texas Thespian Educator Conference in January. And you gave me the idea that maybe we just need to have one of those a workshop where it's just like you said, keeping it real. The not here's how to have better curriculum in your classroom, or here's how to the pedagogy element. Here's what you're going to experience when you go home each night. Because I think that's very, very true. I started at a school that didn't have a tech shop as well. That didn't, great shows, and I loved working with Brandon. The school was amazing, but the amenities weren't there. It just was what it was. So, yeah, you sort of start to feel like, am I doing something wrong? When in actuality, it's just there's only so much you can do. So, uh, you can speak on that, but that leads me into my next little question. But
No, I think that's a great idea. I know, especially because Mel said it in hers, and like especially technical directors, like the
yeah,
way you do tech and you build for a show in high school is very different than when you were in the real
yeah,
world of theater. And so a lot of that, especially, depends on background too. Like if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, then it's going to seem like you're not doing your job, or it's going to seem like you're not doing something right when all these other greats are doing it like it's no one's business. And you forget that they've been in there longer and they know the tricks of the trade. And that it sort of helped me out having all those people in my phone so I could call and say like, hey, look, am I doing this right? And they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, that happened to me like my second year, and this is how I did it. I'm like, oh, okay, okay. Like that happened to Natasha Tolson. Okay, great,
Right.
cool. I know I know I'm not completely out of my league, but it is helpful to, and that's why I think it's so important to have those conferences just for teachers, because it just does something to your psyche to help, especially if you're an only teacher.
Right.
Like right now, for the first time in my career, I'm the only theater teacher at my school, and it's a lot. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work, and it's taking a lot of toll on me that I didn't think it would, or I'm not used to, because I've always had somebody else there to help, or even just to vent back and forth off of. So being solely by yourself, it's very draining. It's extraneous, and having those moments like ITS was so great.
Yeah.
Yes, I love my kids going there and like learning stuff. Like, get away from dad. Dad needs to be with his friends.
Yeah.
Dad, like I need to refill
Yeah.
my fuel just as much as y'all do. So, but no, I completely agree, and I think just having those conversations, we had the Comel ISD, we had a student teacher come with us, and she had a moment where she had to talk to a student, and she's like, how do y'all do this, wiping away tears. I'm like, "Ooh." I was like, sweetie, we are raising human beings, and that's something they don't tell you.
Yeah.
We are raising human beings, and we have to teach them how to not be douchebags and how to be just nice
Yeah.
people. Ultimately, it's hard work, and that's something that is not in the education books. It's not in the curriculum. But here's like a number. If you
Yeah.
need
Right.
if you need any mentorship, like let me know, and I have a lot of good lesson plans really ready to go if you
Yeah.
need them. So
Here's my recommendation for a nice cab. Yeah. Yeah. So that leads me into, because you mentioned hypothetical curriculum. Uh, like that just, I mean, I'm sure that could be a whole conversation in itself, but do you still have that curriculum? How did you come up with the curriculum? Did you kind of beg, borrow, steal from friends and social media and stuff? I know a lot of teachers do that. That's okay. That's another thing you can tell new teachers. Hey, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's okay to kind of go online and beg, borrow, and steal. But speak on the hypothetical curriculum, because that made my antenna go up.
it was a lot of it was a little bit of all of that put together. I'm a very um, the Spanish word is terco person, and that's just another word for like hard-headed, um, a hard-headed person. And so I was like really wanting to make sure that my curriculum was my curriculum, and I um, was really formatting something that would help my kids. And because I didn't have a shop, and because I didn't have tools, like nothing, I had absolutely nothing. I had a saw. And I brought home some of my personal tools just to help them hold a drill. And we made four platforms, I remember, and they thought it was like the best thing in the world. I was like, that's all I got. Like, sorry. Um, and so, but no, it kind of came from like desperation. It came from need. It had to be done. And so what I did was I thought about my stagecraft courses that I took in college, and kind of like put all those together in like a level one type of way, and kind of just like, all right, the first unit is going to be the basics of learning who's who, right? Then here are the tools, and like just basically doing all that stuff. But again, not having the tools, but having pictures of the tools, showing them what they work on, showing them the actual safety if we had a shop, right? um, um, and everything was hypothetical, because like again, I can't build flats. Normally you would take the lumber, you would show them how to use the tools in order to build it. We didn't have that, so I got popsicle sticks and construction paper, and they had to construct the flat knowing what the toggle was, knowing where the rail and where the cap was, and all the cornerstones and all that stuff. So they had to, like, they were building it just in a smaller scale model, so I can see, and they can prove to me, okay, they've mastered that assessment. And then moving on to like lighting, like like three point lighting, and learning what that is, and saying, okay, if I wanted a spooky, quote unquote, scary lighting, which one would be the key, which one would be the fill, like show me what that would be. And again, a lot of paperwork, a lot of coloring, a lot of a very heavy design class. My favorite lesson that came out that year, it was one of those last minute lessons, like the lessons that you're like, oh yeah, I should probably write something really quick. And that was the one that I did for makeup, and I grabbed 6 random objects that I had, because all theater directors have those random stuff, and I put them on a table, and I said, all right, find your groups of 4, go. Counted off, they found the groups, sat together, put together. I'm like, all right, one person's going to be the artist, the other person's going to be the designer, the other person's going to be the model, and the other person's going to be the spokesperson. So the model wore the makeup, because we all know that there's one student in every group that doesn't want to do stuff, but hey, what, you're going to get your face painted. And then the designer was the one that actually designed it, but of course the painter kind of helped them out. And then the spokesperson is the one that's actually using the elements and principles of design to explain what happened. And so they all had to grab one of the random 6 objects and use that object to kind of bring out some kind of design from it. So if it's a Rubik's Cube, some kids like put blocks on over the face. Another person just did a Picasso looking thing on their face, because that's what they thought the Rubik's Cube was. This is when that sci-fi show Face Off was on, and I just watched an episode of that. I was like, that's what we're doing, and they loved it. And we used the cheap Walmart Halloween makeup that was there. It wasn't the best quality, but they had fun, and they learn design, but also the application of that design. And they're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that color because it bleeds. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm glad you learned. That's the whole point of this. But that was one of my favorite lessons. And then also the one I got observed for, and my personal favorite lesson, is a stage management one, when they're having to call cues and they get so like, what's going too fast? I'm like, I know. So you have to really plan out and rehearse just as much as those actors are rehearsing their lines. And then you have to rehearse what your lines are as well. And I always had a student on headset for SM. I had a student on headset for sound. I had a student on headset for the lights. And then students were in the front reading the lines, and it was from Into the Woods. And so if you know Into the Woods, that first couple pages are really fast. And so I made some sound cues and some quick lighting stuff that happened. And they finally got to see like, oh, this is an actual thing. And I found 2 of my best stage managers doing that lesson out of that, because they handled it perfectly. One of them didn't handle it at all, but was able to learn from it and be amazing. So, but yeah, that's what I meant by hypothetical. Like I guess that was one of the one that we could actually go into the theater and practice doing. But again, a lot of it was just like, here's what they need to know. And hopefully in my mind, if I was there the next year, I had some more money to buy some of the stuff that we needed to do, so that I can elevate them even more. And then the next year ones would get all that same lesson, hypothetical, and then they level up and get to actually implement that idea. And I still do that to this day. Even when I was at like a big department like at Harlan, I still did that same concept. There was 1 week that my theater ones were able to help build, because in my mind, my advanced tech, they knew what I needed, and they knew how my like skills worked and how I wanted things. So they were able to get everything built. And then the little level ones came in just to help any little minor things to paint and make it look pretty and all that good stuff. But they all still felt like they had a hand in the production. So that was their favorite time. But I still do it to this day. Level 1, it's all hypothetical, and then it levels up to the actual implementation.
Level up. I like that gaming terminology. So I want to, I want to get you out of here on this last little bit. You talked about your most recent change, your most recent school change, being sort of at that last minute, that 11th hour, if you will. A lot of teachers are afraid of that, afraid of pulling that. Well, I don't want to say pulling that trigger, even though I just said it, but kind of getting that over that hump, if you will, because they're either not happy where they are, they want to just move on, and the job sometimes does come open at the most inconvenient time. What is it about moving and moving on and taking that leap of faith and just knowing everything's going to be all right? I want you to kind of just speak on that and reassure to those people, because I know right now, especially, mental health for teachers is really right up there at the forefront, and taking care of yourself, and that if something does come along at the middle or end of July of this summer and you feel good about it, do it, even though you might be letting some people down, but at the same time, you never know what they're going to get. They might get somebody, a diamond in the rough as well, that comes through and helps them out. So I want you to speak on that just a little bit.
I think because everyone's like listening to my resume, like, wow, he jumped around a lot. And I'm like, yes, I did. But that kind of
It's all
helped
right.
out a little bit. I think the hardest one for me was leaving East Central and those babies and working with an incredible coworker. But it's something I knew I had to do for myself because I knew where I wanted to be. And so I didn't know if this next step was it, but I knew it was a step, you know? And then when I got that call, it was the hardest call decision to make. And even I saw some of my kids at ITS and they kind of like cornered me like, Ramirez, why did you leave? I was like, you guys don't understand. Like, y'all are the reason why I didn't want to leave. But again, something Gloria McLucky told me, she's like, she said, and I tell the other students, um, I'm misquoting her, of course, but she said, there will always be students wherever you are needed. And so that kind of always rings in the back of my head with my decisions. And so I had to pull the heart out of being a teacher, and I had to think logic and like, okay, this is my career. Ultimately, we have to remember that this is our career that we do, and so is this going to be a beneficial step to the career path that I want? If yes, then go for it. There's no again, it was just a leap of faith. I didn't think I was going to get it because I didn't think I was qualified for it, and then there's that doubt like, okay, if it's not, then don't go for it, right? If you're happy where you're at, if you're content with where you're at, then go, then that should be fine. But if you're not content where you're at, I'm kind of the person that makes the decision, especially with the cast list. um if I make a whole bunch of different cast lists, right? Because it's hard to break hearts, but I choose one and I try to like be at peace with it. But if I'm not at peace with it, then that's not the one. Then I get another one. I try to do it. If I'm at peace with it, then it's not the one. Until I have peace of mind, then I'm like, okay, well, this is it. This is the one. And that kind of happened. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'll be okay if I stay. I'll be okay if I stay. I'll do great things. Kids are great. My partner's great. But is it what I want? Then that's kind of what solidified that action. But again, we have to be selfish in a way because it's our careers. We forget that. But again, those words from Gloria McLucky, there will always be kids to teach wherever you're at, and that's kind of ring throughout my entire career.
Minor wisdom.